Pistol Pete's Revenge. Frank witnessed his father's murder in 1868 by a gang called the Regulators at the age of 8. His father's friend, Mose Beeman, vowed that Frank would be cursed if he didn't try to avenge his father's death, and he then gave him his first gun. So Frank learned how to shoot. He became so skilled at shooting that he could quickly hit a rattlesnake's head with both hands. When he outshot all the soldiers at Fort Gibson, he was given the nickname Pistol Pete by the commander. And finally, time for revenge has arrived. Frank's first target was John Ferber, whom he found drinking at a saloon. Without hesitation, Frank called him out, and when Ferber reached for his gun, Frank was faster. A single gunshot ended him on the spot. About the second and third men, Frank heard that 2 regulators were hiding in Kansas, working as hired guns. He ambushed them on the road, catching them off guard. One died instantly in a gunfight, while the other tried to run, but Frank shot him in the back before he could escape. Fourth member had fled to Texas, but Frank tracked him down and challenged him to a duel. Frank blew him and left his body in the dust. The fifth man tried to hide under a new name, working on a ranch in Indian Territory. But when Frank confronted him instead of fighting, that man begged for his life. Frank showed no mercy, 1 bullet, and justice was served. The last member of the gang was Jim Johnson. He had become a sheriff in Arkansas. When he found Johnson in town, he called him out in broad daylight and challenged him to a duel. During the fight, Frank was faster at drawing his gun and shot first, killing Johnson, who then fell dead in the dirt. By 1887, he had successfully managed to hunt down each of his father's killers and shoot them dead. Finally, he was able to move on and he purchased some land in 1889 and got married in 1890. Painter's Revenge. The year was 1565 in Renaissance Italy, a time when art was power and portraits were a symbol of prestige. Giovanni Battista Moroni was a very skilled painter, renowned his ability to capture his subjects with stunning realism. One day, Moroni was commissioned by a wealthy, arrogant nobleman to make the grand portrait of him that would showcase his authority, intellect, and elegance. Moroni, as always, worked with care and precision, painting every detail with lifelike accuracy. Up till now everything was perfect. When Battista Moroni presented the portrait to Rich Man, he said, This is worthless. A waste of paint and time. And the worst part is that, and he refused to pay. Moroni said nothing and he took the painting back by saying that a little more work is left. Moroni made small changes to his face, making him look like a smug and foolish without him noticing at first. The rich man soon displayed the painting at a gathering in his lavish home. But as guests arrived and gazed upon the portrait, they started laughing and made fun of his portrait. Realizing that his reputation was at stake, he returned to Moroni and said, "This needs to be fixed." Moroni smiled politely and said, "Of course, my lord. But there will be an extra charge." Rich Man had no choice, so he accepted it and paid Moroni handsomely to paint a second portrait, this time without the subtle insult. Revenge of 47 Ronins. In early 1700s in Japan, there lived a kind and noble man named Lord Asano. One day, he was called in the palace of the ruler shogun. There, he had to welcome some very important guests from the emperor. Now, to do that properly, Lord Asano needed to learn all the fancy ways of behaving at court. So a man named Kira was asked to teach him. But Kira wasn't kind like Asano. He was proud, greedy, and very rude. Kira made fun of him, called him names, and insulted him in front of everyone. On March 14, 1701, Kira went too far. He embarrassed Lord Asano so badly that Asano lost his temper. Right there in the palace, he pulled out his sword and tried to strike Kira. He only gave him a small cut, but that was a big mistake. Drawing a sword in the palace was against the law, no matter the reason. Because of that, Lord Asano was told to take his own life. It was a special kind of death called seppuku, where a samurai kills himself by cutting into his belly and dies with honor instead of being executed like a criminal. But the story doesn't end there. Asano had many loyal samurai. After his death, they had no master, and so they became wandering warriors with no home, no purpose. People thought they would forget their lord and move on. But one man, Ishi, had a different plan. He gathered 46 of the other samurai and made a secret promise: "We will avenge our lord's death." But they were smart. They knew Kira would be on guard, watching his back, expecting them to come. So they waited. For 2 years. Some pretended to become farmers. Others acted like they didn't care anymore. And Ishi? He went even further. He pretended to be drunk all the time, sleeping in the streets, visiting tea houses, acting like a fool, just so people would believe he had given up. But it was all a trick. One cold, snowy night, when Kira least expected it, the 47 Ronin gathered. Quiet as shadows, they crept through the snow, surrounding Kira's mansion. They tied up the guards, searched the house, and finally found Kira, hiding in a dark shed. They gave him a chance to die with honor, just like Lord Asano had. But Kira refused. So they did what they came to do: they took his life by cutting off his head, and carried it all the way across the city. They walked through the snow in silence until they reached their master's grave. There, they gently laid Kira's head beside it.